Well, happy Sunday, friends. It's good to see you. Let me just take a look at you. Welcome. Welcome to Legacy Church. Really happy that you're here. I know my wife is going to be like, of course you're going to mention that you're sick, but I am not feeling 100% today. I had a summer camp with Pastor Kirkley, and I gave it everything that I had. And so if I seem a little off my game this morning, it's because I'm high on Dayquil. So I'm just, but I'm really excited that you are here today. And don't worry, I'm not chickening out. I want to remind you all that our first in a long time annual all-church softball game is today at 12 p.m. at Paloma Park. Really excited about it. How many guys are going? Yeah! Thank you, Josh. Looks like 3 people are like, ugh. Okay, I know it's going to be hot, so dress for the summer. We have like 150 iced water bottles. Patrick Cullen, we are locked and loaded for that regard. And it's going to be so much fun. My kids are excited. I know we have a large group going. Just come to Paloma Park, bring your own lunch and bring your own chair, and for sure bring extra hydration. But I promise it'll be just a silly fun time playing softball together as we kind of kick off summer. Also, happy 4th of July weekend to you guys. How many of you guys are going to the Templeton Parade on Tuesday? How many of you guys just don't want to raise your hands? Is it too early for that? You're like, don't make me do anything, man. You guys are just like, that's fun. So, it's just good to be here. But that's our major announcement this morning is that our all-church softball game is today at noon at Paloma Park, and we'll be there for maybe an hour and a half or so, depending on, I don't know, how competitive you're feeling in the moment, but I am really excited for that. It's going to be so much fun. We'll take pictures, and it'll be a blast, and so, you know what, if I can just kind of brag on our children's ministry for a bit, I had the opportunity to join Pastor Kirkley at our district summer camp this week, and it was hectic. It was chaotic. Most of us came back sick. But I want you to know that we won camp champs, which, we were the red team, and I had to sing Peaches in front of like 500 kids. Carrie Ann Dawson had to eat sardines. We played volleyball with a giant inflatable. We gave it our all, and we won camp champ. So out of all the churches and all the teams, there was about 400 kids there. Crazy, which was the chapel we were in had a max capacity of 230, so it was quite a lot. And so so we won camp champs. And so if I can parrot that infamous Jim Carrey speech, what does he say? It was great until I had Dayquil in my system. So when as a camp champ, when I go to bed, what does he say? When I go to sleep tonight, I'm not just anyone going to bed. No, I'm a SoCal Kids camp champ getting some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream my dreams tonight, I don't just dream any old dream. No, I dream of being a 2-time SoCal Kid camp champ. So, it was so much fun. We had such a blast. And obviously, I spent 5 years here kind of as youth pastor. So my wife and I, Kristen, we had a lot of youth conventions, a lot of summer camps. But this was actually my first time being a part of a children's ministry summer camp. And it was so fun and so cool, and also just a completely different world than what I was used to, because I'm used to only one Pastor Kirkley, but there was like 100 Pastor Kirkleys at the children's ministry. And it's funny, like children's pastors, they all, regardless of age, regardless of male or female, like they all have like a cocaine-filled chihuahua energy about them. They all have so much enthusiasm about everything. But then they also, because they're talking to kids, when they speak, they take about 2 extra seconds per word. It's very interesting. They're like, today we're going to learn about Jonah. And I'm like, I just wasn't, like, but I get it. It's important, And I will say, they're also all super OCD. Like, I know that Pastor Kirkley has the gift for administration, but now I know it's just like part of the calling of being a children's pastor, because they are all super organized and super OCD. And I learned that if after getting a meal, if you leave through an exit that is not the preferred exit, they're going to let you know. Like, I constantly got in trouble. And one of the first staff members I met, who is the children's pastor, they were, because it was sweet. Pastor Kirkley, he he got to introduce me to everyone. Like, this is Garrett. He's my lead pastor. He's the one that lets me do all this stuff. And so, but the very first other children's pastor I met, kid you not, Lisa, if you're watching online, she was like, hey, lead pastor, huh? And she goes, so, I know your type. Big ego, the rules aren't going to apply to you this week, and you'll take any chance you can get to get out of doing some work. And I told her, hey, that's hurtful. It's accurate, but it's also hurtful, So anyways, I'll just say, you know what, one more thing, just because now I think the medicine's kicking in. Our kids hadn't taken showers, and eventually the showers got shut down, but we had one opportunity to take, everyone from our cabin to take showers. So I took our group to go take showers in their shower area, but I did it during free time, but apparently free time was not shower time. There was actually on the schedule a cleanup time. Hear how OCD they are? So I wasn't allowed to take a shower during free time. It was only during cleanup time. And so afterwards they were like, what are you guys doing? So anyway, it was funny. So they all had walkie-talkies, and it was so clear that all week long they had been like gossiping about me on the walkie-talkies. Because there was one lady that was like, hey, you're supposed to, kind of clean up during cleanup time. And I said, I'm a lead pastor. The rules don't apply to me. I'm just kidding. So I talked to one person, and I'm like, I didn't know. I just thought free time was free time, but okay, I'll make sure we're all ready for dinner. And so then we're walking, and there was another person who I'd never talked to. They were like, okay, now it's time for cleanup time. And I walked by the stranger that went, now you can take a shower. So it was nuts. So it was clear that like on the walkie-talkies, they were like, there's that lead pastor Garrett that's, anyways. Also say, obviously I'm biased, but it was really cool seeing a bunch of different kids in a bunch of different churches and a bunch of different ministries. But I am particularly so proud of our children's pastor, Pastor Kirkley, and his wife, Beth Peterson, they do an incredible job. A phenomenal job. I should also say, I asked for permission before service, like, Kirkley, is it okay if I kind of like razz you about, how different children's pastors and youth pastors are and lead pastors are. But it was so cool as well because he spent time preaching. I think he preached 4 times during it. It was really cool. They did the story of Jonah, and not that it's a competition. I know this is a bit inappropriate, but they had other people have the mic during the service time, but over and over and over again, I would tell Kirkley, like, it's not a competition, but you are the best at this. Just continually, he was funny, he was engaging, and there was never a moment. I mean, I do this a lot when I'm preaching to you. You can kind of scan the crowd, and there's this sense of like, either they're listening or they're not listening. And I can feel kind of spiritually, or just call it intuition, when you are disengaged. And there would be times when somebody had the mic and none of the kids were paying attention. I'm like, do something, I don't know, backflip. However, when Pastor Kirkley went up to preach, the kids were just glued to him, and it was so incredible. I was raised in the Assemblies of God, and it was really cool to see kind of what this generation is getting from their children's ministry. And a lot of this is good and necessary and important, but there's a lot of conversations nowadays, kind of in this deconstruction that a lot of us are experiencing right now, that like children's ministry can be quote unquote manipulative, or sometimes like they learn just a rules-based righteousness, or maybe there's some religious trauma that all kids quote unquote will experience in children's ministry. And to be honest, I almost came with a bit of that lens on of like, let's see what this is going to be like. Because I haven't been in children's ministry since I was in children's ministry. And I was so pleased, I want to get emotional, not only to see kids, I mean, these are like, 1st through 6th graders, opening up about real things. Talking about depression, talking about just the fear that they experience, the feelings of worthlessness. A lot of them are, dealing with families that are either broken or breaking or hurting, But for them to continually hear over and over and over from our children's pastor, Pastor Kirkley, about how loved they are, about how much that there was a God that made them and knows them and loves them, and that they are called to such greatness because of how much they are loved by our Savior, Jesus Christ. And that, it was cool. So they did the story of Jonah, and all these kids felt so empowered. They were not shamed. There was no manipulation. There was no twisting of like, you want to earn extra points, it's time to speak in tongues now, Like they really caught the gospel, and left with, the way Jonah ends. Maybe that's a part of our series for another day, but they left with this calling to be vessels of compassion, vessels of love, vessels of not a victim mindset, but they can live victoriously because of Jesus Christ. And I think, I know there's so much that the church has so much work to do. But I'm so pleased to report back that kind of Gen A, that they are being raised in a way that they are hearing the gospel, they are hearing the love of God, and they are hearing how much God loves them and has called them to greatness because of his finished work. And I think that's worth celebrating. So can we give a round of applause that hopefully Pastor Kirkley can hear all the way next door? It's really amazing. Because he's doing that right now in either 103 or 200, depending on where they're at in their service. But however, speaking of children's ministry, we are in a fun summer series right now called Sunday School, where we are kind of going through some classic Bible stories that you often will hear in children's ministry if you grew up in children's ministry. And we talked about this last Sunday, that the stories of Jacob and Esau. Today, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. The story of Noah's Ark, the story of David and Goliath. They're incredible stories. There's a good reason why you kind of start there when you're engaging with the Bible at a young age. And so I felt a bit remiss that it just sometimes feels like those are for children's ministry. It's not like the Bible has a little asterisk by any section that goes, this is only for K through 6. So we're visiting just for fun, because it's the summer where we're visiting these classic Bible stories, that hopefully to glean or maybe be reminded of the wisdom that is in them. But then also, we laughed about last Sunday that you can read these Bible stories. They're not really for kids. They're quite graphic. They're quite, there's and even sometimes you can read them and be like Noah's Ark, which we'll get to. You're like, this is a crazy story. It's not about animals. It's about a giant flood, and people don't survive. They're very heavy stories, and so I'm excited to read with them. I'll read through them again as a part of our summer series. So today, the title of my message is in honor of Dragon Force, Through the Fire and Flames. So hopefully as you leave, maybe we should play that on the way out. I don't know. We might either get copy striked on Facebook or somebody might get offended. No, let's do it. I think we should play some Dragon Force as we leave to go play softball today. If you can cue that up, Tayon, I can help you with it after service. But we're going to read the classic story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as we go through the fire and flames this morning. So let's go ahead and get right into it. If you do want to follow along, I'm going to be using the New Living Translation, and we're going to be in Daniel chapter 3. That's where this story where we're going to kick off. So that's, again, Daniel chapter 3, starting right at verse 1. This is such a good story. I got to let you know, either if I get extra ranty, it's because I don't have too many notes this morning, because this story is not only familiar, but it's such a great story. It's just a story you can just read. I don't think it needs much preaching, but of course we'll have some fun with it. It's just a powerful story of God's providence and the importance of taking courage, for standing up for what is right, regardless of the consequences. And so let's go ahead and read this together. Again, Daniel chapter 3, beginning at verse 1, it says this. Excuse me. More of those to come. It says, King Nebuchadnezzar made a gold statue, 90 feet tall and 9 feet wide, and set it up in the plain of Dura in the province of Babylon. Then he sent messages to the high officers, the officials, the governors, the advisors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates. Everybody got this message. All the providential officials to come to the dedication of this, again, giant 90-foot tall golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So all these officials came and stood before the statue King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. So very briefly, this is King Nebuchadnezzar over the province of Babylon. He is not a follower of Yahweh. He is not a follower of the Bible, as we know, because he just made an idol. He made it, how human of us and how hilarious of most government officials. They make a thing and then they go worship the thing, right? So King Nebuchadnezzar does this. He makes a giant golden, as we all know, it was a 90-foot chocolate bunny, and who remembers VeggieTales? Now all the millennials are like, yeah, and everyone else is like, huh? The bunny. Oh, I love the bunny. I don't need my soup for my bread. Okay, I'm so sorry. I was hoping you would join me, but you just kind of hung me out to dry right there. Like, you can go ahead and sing that VeggieTale song. So he builds a giant 90-foot golden statue. He gathers everyone from all around and says, hey, I want you to worship this statue that I have made. Then the herald shouted out and he says this. He says, people of all races, all nations, all tongues, listen to the king's command. When you hear the sound of the horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipes, and other musical instruments, bow to the ground to worship King Nebuchadnezzar's golden statue. Okay? Part 1, yikes. Part 2, even more of a yikes. Anyone, I lost my place here, give me a second. Anyone who refuses to obey will immediately be thrown into a blazing furnace. So at the sound of the musical instruments, all the people, whatever their race or nation or language, what did they do? They bowed to the ground and they worshiped the golden statue that King Nebuchadnezzar had set up. And then it says this in the next verse. But some of the astrologers, these types, they went to the king and they informed him on the Jews. See, God's people we're about to read, you already know their names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Some of his officials have kind of been snooping around to make sure every time they hear the instruments, they bow down to the ground to worship the chocolate bunny, to worship the golden statue. And so far, so good, except for God's people. And actually, I apologize. We don't know how many Jews, people of God, are in Babylon under King Nebuchadnezzar. We only know of 3 that refused to bow down. There very well could have been more that just said, okay, you know what, I don't want to die today. But there were 3 that would not worship the golden statue. There were 3 that stood up to the king that was threatening death. But I want you to hear this, because these astrologers, they are such nerdy goobers. It's so embarrassing. You can tell, I picture, Wormtongue from Lord of the Rings, or Peter Pettigrew from Harry Potter, just little rat people that are just scurrying around, just getting everyone's business, going back to the king. So this is what happens. They see that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they're not cooperating, so they go to the king and they're like, listen here, so read this with me. It says, they said to King Nebuchadnezzar, I always picture, long live the king. I don't know. Now it's time for city songs. I'm sorry, my voice isn't ready for that. Long live the king. King, you issued a decree requiring that all the people to bow down and worship the gold statue when they hear the sound of the horn, the flute. They're such nerds, they took notes during his speech. They're like, we're going to get all the instruments. And so they repeat it. The horn, the flute, the zither, the lyre, the harp, the pipes, and other musical instruments. They wrote it all down to impress the king. That decree also states that those who refuse to obey must be thrown into the blazing furnace. And so they're so excited about this. But there are some Jews. There are 3 men, king, they're not listening to you. And their names are, say it with me, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Rakshak and Benny. It says, whom you have put in charge of the providence of Babylon. King, they pay no attention to you, your majesty. They refuse to serve your gods and do not worship the golden statue that you have set up. And what does it say? Nebuchadnezzar goes, well, we have a lot of freedoms here in Babylon. That's okay. No, it says, of course, then Nebuchadnezzar flew into a rage and ordered that Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego be brought before him. They tattle, I guess, on the followers of God and say, they're not cooperating. They're not bending the knee. They're not worshiping this golden statue. What are you going to do about it, Neb? What are you going to do about it, King Nebuchadnezzar? So he gets very upset. And he goes, bring them to me at once. And it says this. I want you to hear their response. There's 2 things here to me that are so incredibly powerful. He says, you bring me those 3. I'm going to fix this right now. It says, when they brought them in, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, he gives them a moment. Maybe we're mistaken here. Maybe they missaw. Is it true, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, that you refuse to serve my gods or to worship the golden statue? that I have set up? I'm going to give you one more chance to bow down and worship the statue that I have made when you hear the sound of the musical instruments. But if you refuse, you will be thrown immediately into the blazing furnace. And as foreshadowing, he says, and then what God will able to rescue you from my power. Oh, hold up, King, just wait. I want you to listen to their response. This is so powerful, and if I'm honest, I think so many of us were like, well, I'd be like them too. Let's pray about that this week, because I don't exactly know if we would. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they replied this way. First diss. They don't say, oh, your majesty. Oh, king. No, they get rid of that and they go, oh, Nebuchadnezzar. Because they know who their king is and it ain't him. Oh, Nebuchadnezzar. Here's this first part that just gets me. They say, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter. It says, if we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God whom we serve is able to save us. He will rescue us from your power, your majesty. And here's the other part that just gets me every time. Don't miss this. But even if he doesn't, we want to make this clear to you, your majesty. Okay, I forgot. They do say it there once. They're a little nicer there. That we will never serve your gods or worship the gold statue that you have set up. Two things here I want you to see in these two verses. Again, they go before the king. Nebuchadnezzar goes, I'm going to give you a moment here to get your story right, because maybe we're mistaken here. And I think it's fair that clearly Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they knew this was coming. They at least had conversations, because the three of them in unity say two things that I think are so incredibly powerful that all of us need to make a decision to follow their example today. When he says, you're going to bow down when it's time to bow down, and you're going to worship my gods, and you're going to worship that golden statue. It would have been very easy for them to go, all right, sounds good. I remember my dad growing up in Royal Rangers. He'd say, you could just bow down and just say, God, if I die, I can't be an evangelist for you. I know I'm bowing down, but I'm standing up in my heart, God. I just don't want to make a scene. It'd be very easy, very convenient for them to do that. But what do they say? He goes, explain yourselves, and they go, no, we're not doing that. We're not going to defend ourselves before you. Well, what I think they're showing us here is that essentially Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego tell this to King Nebuchadnezzar. The decision has already been made. The decision has already been made. For many of us in our lives, we are tempted, and then we scramble, and then we fail, because we have not made commitments to ourselves and to God to say, no. When it comes to that, the decision has already been made. When it comes to bowing down before the 90-foot golden statue, even if it kills me, God, I'm saying it now, the decision has already been made. Let's get a little more practical here. When I get tempted again with my addictions, when I get tempted again with lust, right? When there's someone that is just there's temptation everywhere, and it's so easy to go I don't know what I'm going to do about that, instead of saying, oh no. The decision has already been made. When Satan comes your way to say, hey, remember that old lifestyle. Hey, remember that old addiction. Hey, remember that old bitterness. Let's go back to that old sin like a dog returns to its vomit. Let's go back. Do you remember? Instead of going, I don't know, can I think about it? I don't know, Satan, can I pray about it? We say, no, the decision has already been made. Does that make sense? I think many of us in our lives, you know the ways that you are pulled. I am pulled in ways that you are not pulled, but we all need each other. There are many times, and listen, it's really hard to make that decision right in the middle of temptation. It's not impossible. Scripture's made that very clear. But it's oftentimes moments like today. Hopefully you're not being, actively tempted to sin in the middle of service. Maybe. I don't know your life. But, maybe right now, those things, those issues, those circumstances, you can say, okay, God, this is it. This is the day. Right here. The decision has already been made. I'm not even going to entertain it. I'm not going to think it through. I'm not going to put out a pros and cons list of sinning again, right? Of worshiping that proverbial golden statue that I continually fall down and fail at. No, the decision has already been made. When you are pushed to compromise morally, when you are pushed just like everyone else, it's real hard to stand up when everyone else is bowing down. Only 3 people standing up. We got to tell ourselves, no. The decision has already been made. We do not need to defend. We're not going to talk about this, Nebuchadnezzar. You're not going to convince us, and clearly we're not going to convince you. The decision has already been made. And then here's this other thing. They say God will deliver us, God will provide, God will save us from the fiery furnace. But you saw it. Then they said, but even if. I think that is so powerful. And I don't have a lot of even ifs in my life, if I'm completely honest with you. The things that I'm asking God to do, the things that I want to move, the things I want to change, I come with them with very closed hands before God. Almost as if I'm saying, God, do this or else. God, I'll worship you. It's not an even if, it's an only if. Only if you bless me in this way. Only if this relationship changes. Only if the things that I'm asking for happen now, if not sooner, God. And they have the bold faith and audacity to say, we will worship God because we believe that he will heal us and he will deliver us and we will not die in the fiery furnace. But even if we do, we're still not bowing down. You hear that? In their minds, they're saying, if we die in the furnace, we're going out worshiping. Even if our worst fears come true. It's not a conditional only if with us, it's an even if. And I got to be honest, I need that kind of faith, friends. It's so easy to go to God and again have only ifs. So what if? And I know God is good and I know God is faithful and I know God wants to bless you, but the thing that you're praying for, what if it doesn't happen? What if your prayers, you get back just this confident no? Is it an only if for you? Is it, okay, fine, then I'm done with this whole Christian thing? Okay, fine, I knew you weren't going to do it, God. Goodbye. Because Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, their literal lives are on the line. For many of us, it's just our well-being, our bank account is on the line. They are literally facing death, and they go, we will not serve. We will not discuss this further. We believe God will save us, but even if he doesn't, we're going out worshiping. I pray that all of us would take a moment to inventory ourselves and see where we've essentially written contracts with God. You do this. These are my terms for worship. These are my terms for following you. These are the areas that I need you to do this or else. Only if instead of an even if. I think it's so powerful for themselves. The decision has already been made. And then ultimately they say, even if we die a horrible death, we're still not bowing down. We're still not giving up on our God. And you know what happens. Old Nebuchadnezzar doesn't really like their confidence. It says this, Nebuchadnezzar was so furious with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego that his face became distorted with rage. That's funny. Like he just literally pulls a muscle in his face because of anger. Any parents do that before? I've probably done that. I've broken a blood vessel. Just, Lord help me. He gets so upset that his face distorts with rage. And he commanded that the furnace be heated 7 times hotter than usual. There's some fun numerology there with the number 7 in the Bible, but I'm going to keep on going because we got some softball to play. 7 times hotter than usual. The perfect number for God to do a miracle. Then he ordered some of the strongest men of his army to bind Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego and throw them into the blazing furnace. And then we see this. So they tied them up and they threw them into the furnace. It's an interesting detail. Fully dressed. I'm happy that they didn't have to do it naked, but they were fully dressed in their pants, and their turbans, and their robes, and their other garments. And it was here in this moment when I pictured them being tied up together that I was reminded. Because growing up, it's the story of what? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I'm realizing that when I got to this part, when I was reading it the last few weeks, that I realized that I'd always pictured Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego as one person. But it's not one person. These are 3 men of God. These are 3 people. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That all 3 of them, I'm sure through great fear, great prayer, a lot of personal discussion before they got before the king, they said, we will not bow down. This could have been the story of Shadrach and his 2 friends that chickened out, right? Could have been that. Here's something that I want us to think about. I hope that all of us have some furnace friends. You need to get yourself some furnace friends. You know what I'm talking about? Does that make sense? I don't think I need to preach that. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. You need to get yourself some people in your life that are willing to stand in the flames with you, that are willing to push you towards what is right and what is godly and not what is easy and common. I think for too many of us, I know I'm stepping on toes, for too many of us, we don't want friends that sharpen us. We don't want friends that disagree with us. Certainly not, right? We just want friends that what? That just kind of soothe our minds and help us confirm what we already believe. We don't want friends to say, hey, I don't know if that's a good idea. If we do that, we just block them on social media and never speak to them again, right? That's what we do. It's so easy. 2 taps and they're gone. Do you have furnace friends? Because I know this is not in the scripture, but maybe there was one of them that was like, I just don't know. And it took Meshach and Abednego to go, come on, Shadrach. What are you going to do? You going to bow down? You know what I mean? These 3 men sharpened each other and emboldened each other and helped each other. You need that in your life. You need people in your life that are willing to not only push you towards what is right, to not bow down to what is common, to what is cultural, to what is easy, to what is sinful, to what is ultimately harmful to you, but very much so, do you have friends that are willing to die to make sure you're more and more like Jesus every day? I will stand in the flames with you. I know this is, let's think about it this way, because it's so easy to think about just the morality of it all, but sometimes we walk through the flames of just life. The pain of it all, the suffering of it all, the loss and the grief. Sometimes there are people in your life that they only want to hang out with you when you're at 110% and you can bless them and make their life better. But as soon as you need them, they're gone. They're the ones blocking. Like, oh, you're sad? Oh, okay. Come back when you're ready to party. Do you have those kind of furnace friends? And if you do, oh, God help me. Can you just remind them of that today? Send them a text, be like, yo, FF, how you doing? Let them know, I need you to be a furnace friend. I need you to stand in the fire with me. I need you to make me better. I need you to push me to be more like Christ, lest I bow down to what is common and easy and ultimately harmful to the calling that God has placed on my life. Go thank those furnace friends. And if you don't have any, you got a bit to start out with. Hey, would you willing to die in a fire with me? I'm not just saying. You need friends that are willing to stand with you, support you. Don't let you fall. They will push you to do what is right. So again, where we last left them before I went on a weird rant about furnace friends, they're in it now. And what we read is this. This is a scary detail. It says, and because the king, in his anger, had demanded such a hot fire in the furnace, it says the flames killed the soldiers as they threw the 3 men in. Is that hot? It's like a Tuscadero July 2nd weather in there, it's that hot. Flames killed the soldiers. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, securely tied, fell into the roaring flames. Let's just pause there for a moment. What do you think is going through their minds? Yeah, fair? Ouch, yeah, ouch. But again, you know the story. What does it say? But suddenly, Nebuchadnezzar jumped up in amazement and exclaimed to his advisors, I love this. Nebuchadnezzar is he's ready to watch a fireworks show. He's pumped. These guys disobeyed me. Everyone's around. They're going to watch them burn. And he goes, and he stands up, and he looks in the furnace, and he says this, didn't we tie up 3 men and throw them into the furnace? Yes, your majesty, we certainly did. Look, Nebuchadnezzar shouted. I love this because something beautiful is happening, and Nebuchadnezzar gives the language that he knows. But God, Jesus Christ himself, is standing in the flames with them. He says this, didn't we throw in 3? Yes, your majesty. Well, I see 4 men unbound walking around in the fire unharmed. And here's the language, the only language he knows. And the fourth one looks like a son of looks like a son of the gods. I love that. That's the only language he knows. Was it a son of the gods? No, it was the Son of God, Christ himself, standing in the furnace with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. And I'm sorry, Legacy Church, but this is the moment where you praise God and clap and get a little excited. There you go. I want you to see this. And this scares me, but I know it biblically to be true. I don't want you to miss this. Bringing you through the flames is a better miracle. Leading you, guiding you, holding you, walking with you through the pain of life is a much better miracle. If I were Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, I would love the story to go like, and they just couldn't get the stinking furnace to start, right? Weird. Nebuchadnezzar goes, well, I guess we'll try again tomorrow. And then they ran away and everything was fine. Or, preferably, I would have loved that when we stood before you and we said we're not going to bow down, Nebuchadnezzar would have been like, wow, that's a heavy flex. Okay, guys, we're following their God now. But that doesn't happen either. Picture it. The whole time, God will provide. God will heal us. This is not going to happen. And it gets worse and worse and worse. They get before the king. I'm sure they get put in prison. They got to get the furnace ready. Then they get tied together. They're like, hey, we're getting closer and closer. We're seeing the soldiers that are carrying them die. And then they get thrown into the fire. It's a much better miracle that God was in them and led them through it. I think for many of us, or maybe it's just me, I would much rather prefer God to, move me around the fire, away from the fire, and not directly into it. What does Psalm 23 say? Even though, it's not like the even if again. Even though I walk, what is it? Through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Went a little King James there this morning. I want you to know that often God wants to lead you through it, not just around it or away from it. And make no mistake, that is a much more painful journey. That I experience loss, that I experience grief, that I experience the flames of life. But I think ultimately what is not only a testament to God, but what is the most spiritually edifying for our development is to not just avoid the obstacle, but go through it and feel God's presence the whole time. It's easy to say when you don't have any trials and tribulations going on. A whole lot harder when you're walking through it. When you're literally like, yeah, I'm in the furnace right now and it's hot. I'm getting burnt right now, dude. I believe the better miracle is that God wants to lead us through it so he can show himself strong. And also that we can then, having gone through it, I'm so sick, gone through the grief, gone through the sorrow, we can then be a testimony of his grace to other people. Like, hey, my feet are starting to get hot. Oh, I've been in that furnace before. Let me tell you what God did and what I learned. We can sharpen one another. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego now have the greatest testimony ever. And it would have been a lesser testimony if it was. I just couldn't get the thing to start. Yeah, it was weird. Just Nebuchadnezzar all of a sudden went, okay, never mind then. No, they got thrown in the fire and experienced the presence of Jesus in the middle of it. Don't miss that, friends. I don't want it, but I know my soul needs to walk through it sometimes. Not just around it, not just avoid it. Sometimes we want to avoid the suffering. I'm not saying God causes the fire, God causes the suffering, but I do know he works all things together for your good, for those that love him are called according to his purpose. So again, it says, weren't there 3? Because I see 4. And that 4th one looks like a son of the gods, a Christophany, a son of God. Jesus Christ was with them in the fire. And it says this, then Nebuchadnezzar came as close as he could to the door of the flaming furnace and shouted. He's like trying to yell over the flames. Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, listen to this. servants of the Most High God. Whoa! Come out and come here. So Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stepped out of the fire. Then the high officers and the officials and the governors and the advisors, they crowded around them and saw that the fire had not touched them. Not a hair on their heads was singed, and their clothing was not scorched. They didn't even smell of smoke. What happens to Nebuchadnezzar? You're not going to worship my golden statue? Then I'm going to kill you. And then he goes, hey guys, into the furnace. He goes, come on out, servants of the Most High God. Nebuchadnezzar does a really evil, stupid thing and comes back a Christian. I want you to miss this. God can even save the Nebuchadnezzars. It was really powerful to me in this story because, I kind of want the story to end with, Nebuchadnezzar is, stubborn and goes, he's worshiping his golden statue all by himself until his dying breath. But no. He experiences the power of God even through his horrible, evil, sinful decision. And it's so easy to just demonize the people that are pushing us to get in the furnace. So easy to demonize the people that don't know God, that don't love God, that don't love you, that are a nuisance to you, that they are those evil kings, those evil tyrants, be them political figures or just your boss or just that neighbor that you have. And I want you to know that God can even save these kind of people that feel so gone, so stubborn, so lost, so evil. Don't demonize them. Don't lessen God's saving power by thinking they're too far gone. Because if that's ever the case for anyone, then that goes for all of us. God can even save the Nebuchadnezzars. The people that are so so hateful towards God, it just takes a moment. Sometimes it takes just a moment of this, right? A rock bottom of him mocking God. Who's going to save you now? Oh, God will. Okay, then I'm bowing down. And I love that. I love this. It's like he has that new Christian energy that he has so much passion, but it needs a little bit of direction. So read this with me. It says this. Then Nebuchadnezzar said, praise to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Worship team, you can go ahead and come on back. He sent his angel to rescue his servants who trusted in him. They defied the king's command. He's excited. They didn't listen to me. I told them to bow down. They said, we're not going to do it. And I wanted to kill them, but they didn't die. They defied the king's command and were willing to die rather than to serve or worship any god except their own God. And here's the okay, bro, chill. He goes, therefore I make this decree. If any people, whatever their race or nation or language, speak a word against the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, they will be torn limb from limb. I'm sure they're buddy, I love your heart, but we're not going to do that, okay? Praise God. Love your passion, brother, but yeah. And their house will be torn into heaps of rubble. And then, but then don't miss what Nebuchadnezzar is now experiencing. For there is no other God who can rescue like this. Whoo, that's a good word, Neb. For there is no other God who can rescue like this. And then this kind of section in Daniel chapter 3 ends with this. Then the king promoted Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego into even higher positions in the providence of Babylon. Why don't you stand with me? I think there's a lot of hope in that last verse right there. Remember how this story started. 3 followers of Yahweh, right? 3 followers of God in the kingdom of Babylon, working with the king, and the king in his pride and his ego says, I'm going to make something, and you will worship it or else. And they stand expecting to die. They have their even if. And they don't get close to the furnace. They don't get to the day of the execution. They have an attempted murder, essentially, on their lives, where Christ intervenes. They get thrown into the fire. Jesus is right there. And then what happens? Nebuchadnezzar gets saved because of this. Okay, we're all going to worship their God now because no one else can rescue like this. And then what happens to them? Is it okay, that was a really cool story, but I need you to just stop? No, they get promoted. They get more responsibility in the kingdom. And I don't want this to feel like, oh, if I'm going through a struggle, there's going to be $1 million check in my mailbox tomorrow. I don't want you to hear that. But I do know that God is good, and I do know that he works all things for your good. Doesn't mean the struggle is good. Doesn't mean the suffering is good, the pain is good. No, but he can work and make all things work together for your good. So I do believe this. Last point as I close out. God never wastes a trial by fire. God never wastes your suffering. He never wastes your tears. He never wastes the parts where you're just like, I feel like I'm in a furnace, physically, spiritually, relationally. I don't think God ever wastes it. Now, I will say this. I do believe that there have been times, at least in my own life, where God wanted to use it, but I refused. No, God, I'd rather stay upset. I'd rather stay bitter. I'd rather say, I didn't deserve that. So it took a long time for him to be able to work it together for my good because I just didn't want him to do it. Because I was in the fire. And it was painful. And I want everyone to know of that instead of, look what God led me through. Look at the pain that I've overcome because of his mercy. Look at the struggles that I thought my life was over, but Christ intervened. I don't think God ever wastes a trial by fire. So I want to end with this. If your feet are currently on fire this morning, like, yeah, I'm right in the thick of it. And it's hard, and it's painful, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. And there are days where I'm like, I know God's going to do this, and there are days where I'm just like, I am done. Where are you in this? I want us to lean into his presence again, even though we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Say, God, I need you close. Will you hold me? I need your guidance. I need your love. I need your wisdom. And I need to be able to be fully honest with you because I'm upset and I'm hurting and I'm broken. And I think at our best days, that's what the church can be. That's what the church can do. Be a place where all of us are walking on coals most days. And it's hard, right? But we keep moving, and we keep moving because when we look back, we go, look at all that he's brought me through. Look at all that he's accomplished in my life. I still got more trials. I still got more furnaces coming my way. But I'm not giving up because he has not given up on me. And I want to believe in Jesus' name, whatever you're walking through right now, God will not waste it. He will not abandon you. He will not let you, right, just be consumed by the flames. But often he'll be right there with you, walking with you, saying, don't lose sight of me. Keep walking. Let me pray over us. God, I pray for your spirit and your power in a brand new way. I pray for us to have the boldness to stand for what is right and not just do what is easy and what is common. God, I pray that all of us would make spiritual boundaries, spiritual decisions in our lives and say, no. When temptation comes, when Satan wants to pull us away, we say, I'm sorry, but the decision has already been made. That we would have a covenantal faith with you, and it wouldn't be contractual of this only if mentality. But we know that you are good even when we don't get our way. And man, that's hard. God, I pray that we would have people in our lives to be in the foxhole with us, to sharpen us and mold us and hold us, God, when we're walking through the flames. I pray that we would always have a heart of compassion and saving grace for the people in our lives that just feel like they're just too far gone, and that's never true for you, God. And lastly, Jesus, I pray for those that are just right in the thick of it right now, that we would not lose hope and we would not lose sight of you. And I'm not saying we're going to just have a smile on our face as we're walking towards the furnace, but I just pray, God, that you would hold us and you would strengthen us, that we would not give up. Even if we're crawling through life right now, we just keep moving forward, because I believe that you are good, and I believe that you are strong. And I believe that often you want to walk us through it instead of just around it or away from it. So increase our faith in you, God. our trust in you, and also help us to remember our dependence on you. We need your help, God. We need your strength. We need your peace. We need your wisdom. We need your guidance. We need your protection. So help us, God. In your beautiful name I pray. Amen.
Thank you, Lord.